Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line at Aqueduct on Saturday. Race number 9's the Grade 3 Gotham. We're going a one-turn mile, and we have an overflow field. Let's take a look at these three-year-olds running for $300,000. Mike, it's a pretty wide open race on paper. You've got a lot of horses still trying to sort themselves out on this Triple Crown trail.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of potential in this race, Dan. I'll just put it that way. I don't think there are really any made horses in here yet, but there's a lot of potential. Several of these horses look like they could actually turn out to be pretty good. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this all plays out. It's a big field. You expect that there could be a fast pace in here. Several of these horses are stretching out for the first time. This is a very, very interesting race.
As you can see by our colleague David Aragona's morning line, our favorite is at 4-1. That's the 13 Iron Clover, who's expected to be one of the speeds in this big field, according to our Timeform US pace projector. And why not? 2 starts, hasn't been headed on the lead in both races, and is going to show speed. This pace should be fast.
Yeah, I feel like there's a real chance it gets fast in here. It's such a big field, Dan. Several of these horses are stretching out, as we already talked about, and there's just a bunch of horses who have shown good speed in their races already. I feel like this pace it has to be at least legitimate if it's not super fast.
Several horses are also cross-centered in other spots over the next few days, including the number 1, Clear the Air, who's in the John Battaglia Memorial at Turfway on Saturday. If he runs here, he's an interesting long shot at 30-1. Mike, let's talk a little bit about his last 2 races. I thought he showed a lot of acceleration in his win 2 back, a race that was very visually impressive, and things just didn't work out from a traffic standpoint last time.
One of the horses who looks like he has a good amount of potential, Dan, it would be very interesting if they decide to ship him up here and bring him back to dirt for this race, because you're right. I thought he was visually impressive, breaking his maiden off the layoff. His trip just didn't work out last time. It kind of feels like he was going to win that race if he could have got clear, but he just got boxed in for a long way, and the race was over by the time he got clear. This horse, though, even in his career debut on dirt, Dan, he did not run poorly that day. He was very green. He was wide from an outside post, and he only got tired late in that race.
And his trainer, young Will Walden, has gotten off to a great start of his training career. He was winning over 30% last year. He sent some nice horses up to Laurel as well. An interesting long shot, Clear the Air. It looks like he could benefit from the expected fast pace up front. The number 2, How Great Is Nate? Well, how great is Nate? He's unbeaten from 4 lifetime starts, including 2 stakes races. This most recently at Parks. His final star is a 2-year-old. It's the Future Stars going 3/4 of a mile. This was not the strongest field in the world, but I don't want to knock a horse that's a perfect 4 for 4. He'll be tested for class. He'll be tested for distance.
Yeah, I don't want to knock him either. He's going to get the job done here. He works pretty hard here to get the job done. And this was a 6-horse field, but 2 of the horses were eased. So it felt like kind of a race that really didn't live up to expectations. The horse that he wound up finally out finishing there, Daydreamin' Boy, did come up to New York to run in the Winkfield a couple weeks ago. He was terrible in that race. This horse did run well in all 4 of his starts last year, but this is a way tougher race.
The number 3 in here is Mr. Swagger, a debut winner going 6.5 furlongs. We're going to take a look at that race right now for trainer Juan Avila. Mr. Swagger showed decent positional speed in this race to sit just off the lead. It's not like they were going very fast, though. The half-mile time, 47-4. Mr. Swagger is going to drive clear at the wire. He gets blinkers for the first time here, and I guess it's a good sign that the runner-up from this race came back to graduate with a 93 Beyer, one of 2 next out winners from this horse's debut.
Yeah, this horse ran well in this race. I can't take anything away from him. He took a little bit of money in there, despite being a first-time starter against Register, the horse that he ran down, who had already had a couple of starts under his belt. This horse got bet. He ran a really nice race there to get the job done at the end. It earned a very solid figure. They're going to step him right up and stretch him right out for this race, and he looks like he has a good amount of talent.
He's got a little bit of pedigree as well. He's a 1/2 to 5 iron who was a multiple graded stakes winner, going middle distances on the turf, so there is some hope that he'll stay the distance. Interesting that the blinkers come on off the debut win. Chad Brown represented with the number 4, Uncorrelated. He, a debut winner, sprinting over a sloppy track. Let's watch Uncorrelated's performance. And this was a really solid effort. He took money in this race. You see, it's a very wet track, and he goes on to win pretty easily. He's a son of Arrogate. The dam was a stakes-placed runner going long, and the runner-up from this race came back to run second with a 78 Beyer.
Yeah, the horse that runs second to him is Register, who returned to get beat by Mr. Swagger and then win his next start with a 93 buyer. So he beat a decent horse in this race also. Dan, he got a good trip in here. I like that he was pretty handy early, though. He sort of sat in behind horses for the first part of that race. Then he came up the rail to take over, and you saw how easily he won. That was on a sloppy track. It didn't come back that fast, but he did some good things there.
Trainer Timmy Actine has taken over many of Bob Baffert's horses on the remaining prep races for the Kentucky Derby, including the 5 Carmel Road. Here's his final start at 2. It was a good effort. He was second in the Grade 2 Los Alamitos Futurity behind Practical Move, who we'll see on Saturday at Santa Anita in the San Felipe. He showed fine early speed in this race while off the rail. He's just no match for Practical Move, but he is easily second best. And this was a much improved effort from the Breeders' Futurity, where he drew a terrible post and was hung out wide.
Yeah, give him a pass for the Breeders' Futurity, which was a tough spot anyway. He runs better here. He's just no match for Practical Move at the end of this race, but it's an okay performance. I like him actually cutting back, I think, to the 1-turn mile here, Dan. His debut went 5. He didn't really look like he wanted to go that race. He didn't break, it was green, and then he got into a little bit of trouble in the stretch, but I don't think he was winning that race. He was pretty impressive breaking his maiden, though, when they stretched him out to a mile. I like him cutting back a little bit for this race.
Number 6 is General Banker. He's a little overachiever. He's a New York bred. He's earned a lot of money for these connections. He was a no-match third last time out in the Withers, but he's a one-run closer that would benefit from some pace. Now, how much upside could really be left after 10 lifetime starts? The waters keep getting deeper for him, but he's an honest sort. He's going to be a big price, and he'll get the right race flow.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are true. I mean, if you like what you've seen from him, you could certainly take a shot here. I guess you could argue that his Great White Way 3 starts back, maybe it gives him some kind of a chance to get a piece of this race, Dan. He didn't really run particularly well in either of those last 2 starts when they moved him up in class, and I don't think this race is any easier than those 2.
The number 7 is Transect, who is a perfect 2 for 2. Now, both races came sprinting over the Turfway Park Polytrack, but he showed versatility in both of those starts, rallying from off of the pace in his debut, showing speed in his second lifetime start. And he certainly has the pedigree to succeed going a route of ground on dirt.
Yeah, he does. There's a lot of dirt in his pedigree, and the mile is not supposed to be a real problem for him. It's going to be interesting to see if he can continue to progress, Dan, because I think there's a real chance that he can do it. To me, he's sort of looked like in both of his starts so far, like he's still kind of trying to figure things out. He doesn't really have a good grasp on horse racing. I don't think he's still really green in his races, and it only feels like he's doing what he needs to do to get the job done. He's not going to be able to get away with that in this race, I don't think, but I wonder how much more he has in the tank.
The number 8 is Fort Warren, another ex-Baffert horse, but this one goes for top Mid-Atlantic trainer Brittany Russell, a debut winner sprinting at Santa Anita, a race in which he was part of the pace. He shrugged off a couple of other pace rivals and went on to win. And then he just didn't do much last time out in the Grade 2 San Vicente, a race won by a very good sprinter, Having a Meltdown, who came back and ran second, I believe, a close second in the Saudi Derby.
Yeah, we'll see what this horse does. I guess I could go either way on him, Dan. He's 12-1 on the line. That feels like a pretty good price, if only because he did run a really fast race when he broke his maiden first time out. I didn't love that race. I wasn't, particularly taken with it, but it did come back fast. He did earn that win too. They made him really race for it, and he got the job done. He was terrible last time. I mean, even if it's a race where you felt like he couldn't win, his stablemate Having a Meltdown is just better than he is and faster than he is. But still, I would have liked to see him do some running in there. He didn't do any.
He is a son of Curlin. Maybe you'll get the mile. His dam was very fast, a stakes-winning sprinter. The number 9 is Clubhouse, goes out for the powerhouse Todd Pletcher barn. I haven't been impressed with this one from 7 lifetime starts just yet. It took him a while to break his maiden. He did it 2 starts back over Good Going, a race in which he had a perfect setup. I mean, he was pressing 1,000,000 to 1 shot on the outside and went right on by. He ran in the Wingfield last time out. He was no match for the winner, Drew's Gold. This is a tougher spot.
Yeah, I agree with all that stuff, Dan. This is his last start to Wingfield. He does, the best that he can do here. He got a decent trip in this race. He actually has a shot at this thing from the final, from the 3/16 pole. He just doesn't make up any ground. I just thought he was really hard to make a case for. You're going to get Pletcher and Carmouche at a price if you like him.
As we see, he's chasing home Drew's gold, and maybe getting to a mile will work for this son of Speightstown. The 10 is Luga Knight. I like the way the Preakness winning trainer Michael McCarthy's handled this horse. I think he has questions about how far this horse wants to go, so he has been reluctant to stretch him all the way out around 2 turns just yet. Here's his most recent start. It's the Jerome going a 1-turn mile, and he was the beneficiary of a brilliant ride from Dylan Davis. He didn't break that cleanly from the gate, but nobody wanted the lead, so Dylan took it. Arctic Arrogance, the favor on the outside, looks like he's got all the momentum. Lugan Knight says no. Might be a combination that Lugan Knight is pretty good, although it could be said that Arctic Arrogance could also have a bit of a character flaw.
Yeah, I guess that's true. It's another one where I think you could go either way on this horse. Personally, I would just wait and see what kind of price he is, because certainly based on what he's done in his first 4 starts, Dan, he's a contender in this race for sure. He could certainly take another step forward here, and I don't think he needs the lead. They put him on the lead last time, but he doesn't have to be there, so that's a feather in his cap also. I just don't really know what to make of the Jerome, so I wanted to take a little bit of a wait and see approach for a horse who's going to take some money in this race. We already talked about General Banker, who led the also rans in that Jerome. He was nowhere in that race, but he finished third. Arctic Arrogance feels like he just keeps getting worse with every start. So I don't know, man. I don't really know what to do with this horse, but I don't want a short price on it.
Arguably the best bred horse in the race is the number 11, Slip Mahoney, and it wouldn't be a Triple Crown prep without 1 or 2 trained by Brad Cox. Slip Mahoney's by Arrogate, and his Damn Get Lucky was a Grade 1 stakes winner going long, beat Untappable in a Grade 1 at Keeneland, and here's Slip Mahoney's most recent start. Just consider that the race before this, he gave the Todd Pletcher trained Tappet Trice a very good performance, only beaten a neck, and that horse is considered a major Kentucky Derby contender. Slip Mahoney was on the pace in this race. It's not a strong field, but he gets it done, and he wants every bit of the mile.
Yeah, and this horse brings a strong challenge to him, Crouppy, too. I know Crouppy's a bit of an underachiever right now, but that horse has some ability. He took a big run at this horse, and they put distance on that field through the stretch. That was a good performance from Slip Mahoney. He was good 2 starts back. You could see his potential in his debut when he was super green, but did a little bit of running in that race. He's right off a maiden win here, Dan. He's facing several horses that have either already won stakes or are dropping out of stakes races. I think he's the horse to beat.
The number 12 is Ray's Kane. It looks like the connections are really desperately trying to get this horse on the Kentucky Derby trail. He's multiple stakes placed on dirt, 1 race sprinting, 1 race going 2 turns. They tried a synthetic stake last time out. Maybe he didn't love that surface. The 4th finisher from that race is still a maiden. He came back to run 2nd with a 72 buyer. This is the kind of horse, though, Mike, that's going to get the right race flow, is comfortable at the distance, and at a big price, he'll be kicking on late.
Yeah, and you're going to get a surface switch here too, which could certainly help his cause as well. Yeah, I agree with all that stuff, Dan. I had a tough time just sort of finding anything that I could really latch onto with this horse. But he's run a couple of races that put him in the mix already, Dan. He's going to be a huge price in here, and he might have a setup.
Brad Cox has Slip Mahoney. He also has the 13 Iron Clover, a perfect 2 for 2 in his career, both races sprinting. How far does he want to go? How fast can he go in the early portion of this race without tiring himself out with other speeds? Those are 2 major questions. He's a half to a graded stakes winning sprinter named Heaven Has My Nicky.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, listen, I'm not going to knock his first 2 wins. He's been very visually impressive winning. I guess if I had to knock him, and as the morning line favorite in this race, as he stretches out from post 13, I'm looking for ways to knock this horse, Dan. And I would just say, as far as I can tell, he has beaten 2 horrendous fields in his first 2 starts. So we'll see what happens. I realized the horse that he beat last time that was second came back to win again, but that horse was claimed for 40 1 start prior to that. It just feels like he's beaten up on 2 really bad fields, but he's been really visually impressive winning.
The final horse in the body of the field is the 14 Recruiter, who's also cross-entered at Parks early next week. This horse is one of the better Midlantic-based 2-year-olds for trainer Cal Lynch, a perfect 4 for 4 in his career. He's won at 6, he's won at 7. Let's see if he can get the mile. Here's his last race, the Parks Juvenile. He wins very easily over a sloppy track. He has showed the ability in this race to sit just a little bit off horses, and I think that's something that would serve him well in this spot. It's obviously a major class test as well as a distance test. I thought he was very visually impressive, winning 2 starts back, and he's put up some fast numbers.
I agree with all that. I mean, I actually like all of his races. I think he's run fine all 4 times. He's won easily all 4 times. He's earned some figures that put him right in the mix with these horses. And he's drawn to the outside. So as you mentioned, Dan, he showed he could sit a little bit last time. And being on the outside here might offer him the opportunity to do that again. We'll see. It's not an easy race for him, but he's not a total throwout at a price.
And if there is a scratch, which is a possibility with horses cross-entered in other spots, the 15 Radio Red will get into the race for trainer Danny Gargan. This horse has improved drastically with blinkers, going to be faced likely with a faster pace scenario than last time.
Yeah, pretty easy win last time over Maidens with a really good trip. And he's another one who didn't beat a particularly good field. This won't be easy for him if he gets in.
Wide open race, fun race. Let's take a look at our top selections. I like where you're going with this. Number 1, Clear the Air, a horse that might get the right pace setup, that ran well enough, sneakily well enough on dirt in his career debut and had trouble last time out. If he runs here instead of the Battaglia Turfway, he's bound to be a price.
Yeah, he's got to be a price if he runs here. I think he has a chance to be pretty good, Dan. I think he's better than he looks on paper, which I appreciate about him. And to me, this is just one of those races, man. It's either pick one or pick too many. I'm going to pick one, and I want that one to be a price. And it's Clear the Air. I hope he runs here.
I think Lugan Knight, the number 10, is a fair price on David's morning line. He showed that he could handle the track and the trip. It was a game effort last time out. I know he doesn't need the lead to win. He's not going to get it in here, and I think he might sit a decent trip in mid-pack, getting the jump on the true closers. 1:11.57 for Mike, 10.5, for me. It's the Grade 3 Gotham with Kentucky Derby qualifying points on the line. Good luck.